Joining us now is John Fishwick, former U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, who was appointed by President Obama in 2015. Mr. Fishwick, thanks so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Alex, for having me on your show.
So let's talk about, it's the end of the week, the beginning of the week. You were skeptical about the Justice Department's transparency. What would you grade them now?
I'd give them a very good grade. I'm a tough grader, but I'd give them a B+. They really were transparent this week, and I think it's great. With the court filing, they laid out to the American people the basic case that they're investigating against former President Trump. And that case is that he had a bunch of documents, classified, top secret documents, that there doesn't seem to be any good reason that they were at Mar-a-Lago. And then when the government began their investigation, a number of folks in his orbit have been dishonest with law enforcement when asked questions about it. And that's, obstruction of justice, also potentially lying to a federal agent. So I think the American public can understand that and can see the detailed facts. A picture tells 1,000 words, the documents on the floor, the top secret classifications. I think that gave people a real sense of what the investigation is. So I think that was great that the DOJ filed that brief. It laid it out for the public. Ultimately, the public is going to have to buy into what the DOJ is doing, that they see it, that it's based on facts and law and not based on politics. And I think they took some big steps this week to show that their investigation is based on facts and law.
I wonder if you think the groundwork has been laid enough to support a potential criminal indictment here.
Well, Alex, clearly the folks who have, a number of folks in Trump's orbit, were dishonest with law enforcement. And so those cases are locked in. Now, whether the Department of Justice is going to bring those cases, time will tell, but those are locked down. And in fact, I would disagree with some folks. I think they've done a lot of interviews. They would have done a lot of interviews before they did that search warrant, because once the search warrant takes place, a lot of folks who were reluctant to talk to him are probably not going to talk to him. Those who have been talking to him will continue. But I think they've locked down some criminal activity, and they're waiting to, cross some T's and dot some I's. Obviously, they want to look at these final documents that they've collected. But I think they're pretty far along as relates to this investigation.
Interesting. I'd love to get your thoughts on how Trump's team has responded to all this. They have hammered home very hard and repeatedly this notion of executive privilege. They keep invoking it. I mean, Bill Barr today pushed back on it. Other people have pushed back on it. Legal minds have pushed back on it. What do you think about the strength of that defense? And what do you think about their continuing invocation of executive privilege?
Well, as of today, Alex, that's a weak privilege. A former government official, an ex-president, has very few legal rights as relates to asserting the privilege. It's been pretty clear based on President Nixon cases that the current president makes those decisions. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. If we had every former government employee telling the current government what to do, it'd be a real mess. However, I think the Trump strategy is going to be to appeal on this issue and to drag it out. They've got some sympathetic folks in the United States Supreme Court. Now, it's not going to block the investigation. It's kind of a sleepy thing, this executive privilege. Your viewers may get tired of hearing about it. It's going to maybe delay it. I think it's important for Merrick Garland and his troops to be vigilant to make sure this doesn't muck the whole thing up and stall it too long. I think it's going to drag on for a while. I think the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court may create some new law in this area. But ultimately, I would urge Merrick Garland to do what my father used to tell me, is to keep your eye on the donut, keep your eye on what's important. And what's important is the criminal investigation here, not the executive privilege. That's part of it. You got to pay attention, but you do need to keep your eye on the donut.
That's very interesting. You think they could be trying to run this up the flagpole to get it to the Supreme Court to develop new law around the executive privilege?
And I think it's fairly easy to do that because there are not many cases on it. If you think about it, ex-presidents, litigation. I mean, I think it's just Nixon. So it's very scarce law, which is opportunity for judges to create new law. Again, it's not going to stop the investigation. It may delay it. And I think that's going to be important for DOJ to say, OK, we're going to fight it out over these documents, but we want it on an expedited schedule. And I think that can be achieved. But I do expect it to be appealed no matter what happens with the judge now on the appointment of the special master, and no matter how it's ruled on by the district court. I do think this is going to come a little bit of a sideshow as relates to executive privilege. that's going to drag on for some time, but it's not going to stop the investigation.
Well, and Trump has found a lot of political utility in staging a sideshow when there are important investigations underway. So it's not nothing that this could be, a little carnival over in the distance.